Okay, it is now 5:30, so I will call to order this meeting, December 21st meeting of the Shawnee Mission School District Board of Education. The first item on our agenda this evening is the Pledge of Allegiance. Can we all please rise? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item on our agenda is the adoption of the agenda. I'll seek a motion.
So moved, Goodburn.
Thank you, Ms. Goodburn. Is there a second?
Second, Hembry.
Thank you, Ms. Hembry. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Next, we have the approval of minutes for the special meeting on November 16th. I'll seek a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Sinclair. Is there a second?
Goodburn, second.
Thank you, Ms. Goodburn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Moving on to 1.5, approval of the minutes from the regular meeting on November 16th. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Sinclair. Is there a second?
Second, Guy.
Thank you, Reverend Guy. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Item 1.6, approval of the minutes from the special meeting on December 14th. I'll seek a motion.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Dr. Sinclair. Is there a second?
Second, Borgman.
Thank you, Ms. Borgman. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And finally, 1.7, approval of the minutes from the special meeting on December 14th. I'll seek a motion.
Goodburn.
Thank you, Ms. Goodburn. Is there a second?
Second, Hembry.
Thank you, Ms. Hembry. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I'm just trying to move through that quick because we have 11 speakers tonight for public comment, and so to get everybody in, we're just going to try and move quickly because we have public comment from 5:30 to 6. If you would like to make public comment at one of our board meetings, you can contact Sheris, who's our board clerk for the time being, and she can get you signed up. I'm going to jump in, and we're going to have comments for 2 minutes, 45 seconds to make sure we can hit all 11 folks for the 30-minute window. I'm going to start with Cody Hall. If you could please come to the microphone and say what building you're affiliated with and provide us with your comments for this evening.
Okay. We good? Can you hear me? All right?
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. How Madakiapi in my native tongue, that means welcome, friends. Lakota Sioux, my name is Cody Hall. My original name is Tatanka Chikala. I come to you to speak about these issues. I sit on the board of the National Coalition Against Racism in Sports. And so we've met with people such as the Washington Redskins, Dan Schneider, top names about offensive names to indigenous people. I want to come talk to you guys. Obviously, you're going to get comment about a lot of stuff. I am holding a Shawnee Mission North High School diploma. On here depicts feathers, and this is a chanupa. Not many tribes have this except for Northern Plains. We were persecuted 42 years ago to be holding this along with these other items. When you go to church, you weren't persecuted to sit in a pew. We were. I had relatives doing ceremony who went to prison because they were doing a ceremony. They were doing open religion, all right, the practice of our spirituality. Imagine that if you went to church and you were told to get up by the FBI and said, you're going to prison for an undisclosed crime, right? But eventually it was said because you're practicing your religion, practicing your spirituality. I find it kind of a mockery, and I say that lightly, that this item for which my people have died and passed on, that it is put on these things for which people earn these. You earn a diploma, I get it, but we earn this in our way of life. When I die, this will be passed on to my kids. It is not a mockery to just stamp it and say, here you go. Move on with life. Meanwhile, knowing that people literally died to have these sacred items. And I'm just giving you that base of knowledge because a lot of people here in Kansas City don't realize that 42 years ago, it finally came in Congress said, let these people practice their religion without persecution. 100 years ago, your ancestors sat in churches without persecution. Think about that. This is real stuff. This isn't stuff to be taken lightly. And I just ask that you just rid of it all for the sake of my people, because this staff represents my people from Cheyenne River of South Dakota.
Thank you very much for your comments and for the information you provided to the board previously. It's appreciated. Our next speaker is Emily Bartlett.
I'm so sorry, I'm just pulling it up on my phone really fast. Okay. Hello. I would like to start out with an acknowledgement that the Center for Academic Achievement sits on the land of the Ka or Kansa people, the Osage people, the Kickapoo people, and the Osheti Shikori people. They are, of course, still members of these tribes, very much alive and flourishing today. My name is Emily Bartlett, an alumni of Shawnee Mission North. I'm here tonight to speak to you briefly, and I would like to address the very real arguments that I have heard and have read people use when saying that the cultural appropriation of the mascots and other imagery isn't offensive. Number one, my great-grandpa was part Cherokee, so I can say it's not offensive. No, you can't. You don't get to claim to be Native because you have one distant relative that you heard was Native. There are 474 federally recognized tribes, and they each get to set their own requirements for being a part of that tribe. And genealogy, or how much quote-unquote Native blood you have, is usually one of many requirements. And if you grew up being immersed in any other culture and still claim to be Native, you are committing ethnic and cultural fraud. Any person asking you to comment as a Native not only has the right, but should absolutely ask you about your tribe affiliation, your nation, your band, to see your tribal ID, ask where and how you grew up in order to assess your credentials. And if you have all of these answers, you will see it as respectful. If you dodge these questions, you're just telling on yourself. Number two, if we change mascots, we will erase Native and Indigenous people from history and memory. This is a false flag narrative that is funny because we are actually asking for more Native influence in the curriculum in schools. Number three, the Native mascot and logo honors Native people. A mascot does not honor Native people, and here's how I know. Since 1968, the American Congress of Native Indians, the largest body and representation of Native people in the U.S., is calling for Native mascots and imagery to cease to be used in schools. They have said so since 1968. It's 2020. Number four, you just want to change it because you're PC, liberal, you have white guilt, you're easily offended, you're too woke, you're a white person who thinks they get to whine about everything. Again, I refer you to my previous post about Native people have been asking since 1968 for generations. So yes, I'm now trying to use the power and privilege that I have as a white person to bring this attention of other people. White guilt? Well, someone once told me to save the guilt and tears and do this work, which is exactly what I call this. Liberal? You have no idea. As far as being easily offended or PC, I would call it empathetic and sensitive to the emotions of others, and I would like to think that if someone comes up and says, hey, you hurt me, an appropriate response is to apologize, learn, and make repairs. So, in closing, I would like to leave with you a binder that represents the last 8 months of my life doing research about this topic. I have one for Dr. Folden and the Ka, and then 3 others for the board to share. It is divided up into several different sections about all sorts of information, the psychological effects of students, what we're asking for, the different history of this actual area, and how the Shawnee was here, but only for 35 years, and the 3 different Indian missions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. If you could just give those to Sheriff, and then she'll make sure we get access to them. I'm going to go ahead and ask our next speaker to come up if she can. Glory Obie. Is Glory here? Okay.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nkemchika Glory Obie, and I'm a current senior at Shawnee Mission North and an alumni of Russian Elementary who also carry the Indian mascot. I am heavily involved in the North community, most importantly serving as North's Pep Club president. I am here today to say that it is deeply insensitive of us to continue the use of the Indian mascot. It is time that our district rethink our perceived intentions in continuing the use of this racially derogatory mascot. With SMN having an almost 100-year history and being the first Shawnee Mission High School, I believe we should be leading by example and setting a precedent that aligns with our district's values of diversity and inclusivity. As a North student, I feel that the Indian mascot continues to taint the North reputation as it does not reflect the North community as a whole. It is about time we change the mascot to something that truly represents our loving community. Many have argued that our mascot is only in remembrance of the Native people of our area, but there are so many more humane ways to pay homage to Native people without using a racially derogatory and stereotypical mascot, which is an Indian with red face paint, arrows, and a Native headdress. It would not be acceptable to make a costume or mascot of any other race or culture in our world today, so why does the Shawnee Mission School District continue to tolerate the use of the Indian mascot? I'd also like to add that the continued use of the sacred Native headdress at sporting events and pep rallies is unacceptable. As Pep Club president at Shawnee Mission North, it is incredibly difficult to attend sporting events all over our area knowing that my school is represented and portrayed using a derogatory and racially insensitive mascot. I cannot continue to believe in equality, non-discrimination, and anti-racism while contributing to a school culture and district that continues to contradict that. I cannot remain complicit, and you should not either. Non-Native students should never be adorning Native attire for entertainment purposes. It is not a costume to be paraded around. Finally, in all my years in the North area, starting from Russian Elementary to Hog Grove Middle School to Shawnee Mission North, we, the students, have never been taught the history of the Native Shawnee people, their customs, their traditions, or the events that occurred on the land that we stand on. How can we be named the Shawnee Mission School District, yet our students have no basic knowledge about the Shawnee people? It is time that our district took an important step into the future and offered a Native history course or elective in our Shawnee Mission School high schools. Lastly, I would like to urge you to hear and consider the student voices and perspective of current North students, people who are graduating and attending North as we speak, in this issue and take it into consideration. The changing of the Shawnee Mission North mascot is long overdue, and I hope that the board will help lead the North community into the future by removing the mascot. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming this evening, Glory, and for your work on the Strategic Planning Committee. It's appreciated. Our next speaker is Gary Zuck.
Hello, I'm Gary Zuck, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all. My wife Connie and I live in the Prairie Village in the Shawnee Mission East area, and both Connie and our sons graduated from Shawnee Mission East. Celebrating American Indian culture creates an important link to our past. One way we can do this is to acknowledge the first people who lived on this continent is by naming cities, buildings, streets, and even naming local high school mascots as an important reminder of our past. Eliminating the Indian mascot eliminates a part of our history. We should reach out to Native American communities, especially Shawnee communities, so that we can figure out how to honor our shared heritage. I was elected vice president of our senior class for the 1957-58 year. I've helped organize our last 3 class reunions. The last one was in 2018 with one day that we spent at Shawnee Mission High School. In many conversations with my classmates, there's always been an element of pride with having been known as an Indian from Shawnee Mission High School. And we honor and respect the Native American Indians, their values, influences, and history as it relates to our school, community, and our area. The Indian culture, heritage, and history in Johnson County is part of who we are today. I'm proud of that heritage and the impact of the American Indian on that heritage and culture. Thus, I believe we honor the Native American Indian by having and keeping the Indian mascot. As one of my classmates, Myra Gray, says, changing the mascot will not change history. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zuck.
And I did bring my Pep Club jacket.
Thank you. Our next speaker is actually Chief Ben Barnes from the Shawnee tribe. Chief, if you could please come to the podium. Thank you.
Tō hawis kisekike ni te se tō Ben Barnes kita yokopi okima sawanu niniki. I said in my native language, my Shawnee language. My name is Ben Barnes. I'm chief of the Shawnee tribe. My language and my people came here in 1831. We are the Shawnee tribe of everywhere. We're federally recognized tribes, and we have citizens in more than 50 states. We have citizens that live in foreign countries. Our people came here as a product of the removal from our Ohio reservations and westward pressures, hoping to be able to stay in Kansas forever. And some of our people still remain, and we have never left Shawnee Mission. I come here today to ask this board, you stand on a moment of history, and you should be proud that you take this moment in the serious and gravity that you have by asking us to come and speak to you today. I commend you all for your bravery. I commend you all for doing the right thing, and I urge you to no longer accept that people are not mascots. We do not accept this of any other ethnicity. You do not honor us by putting us on your jackets. You do not honor us by putting us on diplomas. We are not caricatures. We are real people with cultures, religions, and opinions. And as the leader of the Shawnee Nation, I find myself in the position of Blackhoof, the descendant government of Blackhoof, whose people came here in 1831 to find a place for themselves. And I ask you for an equality. I ask you for the equality of all Americans, of all Kansans, of all human beings.
Thank you very much, Chief, for coming this evening. Our next speaker is Grace Mururi. I apologize if I have mispronounced that.
Hello, everybody. My name is Grace, and Grace Mururi, and I'm from Neiman Elementary in 6th grade. My teacher, Miss Ellis, will be passing you out papers of what I will be discussing today. Hello, Shawnee Mission School District Board of Education. My name is Grace Mururi, and I am from Neiman Elementary. I will be discussing why changing our mascot from the Neiman Indians to a more suitable mascot was an appropriate decision. I believe that changing our mascot will be more inclusive for everybody instead of picking out a few individuals. I feel that it was very wrong to turn Indian culture into a cartoon. I feel that this change is great for our school because of the respect that it brings to everyone without any partiality. I like the voting process we used to choose our school mascot because all Neiman teachers, parents, and students were involved in it. With the help of us, Student Council Community of Neiman, every person was allowed to vote, and this made the outcome more personal and helped it to become a community decision. I'm very proud of the job well done by us, the Stuco kids. Out there are still schools with Indian mascots. I encourage such schools to come together to change their mascots and have one that is more cultural appropriate. I believe that coming together to change the mascots could be a uniting and positive experience for these schools and the entire district. We are so proud to be the Neiman Foxes, and we hope you join the pack. Thank you. If you have any questions about our new mascot, how we picked it, or how Stuco helped run the election, I would love to answer them.
Grace, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We appreciate it. And tell your fellow Foxes on Stuco we thank them as well. Our next speaker this evening is Melanie Arroyo. Again, I apologize if I've mispronounced the name.
Good evening. My name is Melanie Arroyo. I am a resident of Lenexa, and I graduated from Shawnee Mission North in 2010. As a mental health professional specializing in traumatic disorders, including racial trauma, I am here to speak in favor of removing Indigenous mascots from the school district and to speak in support of meaningful and attainable reparations that can be provided to those who have been harmed by the use of Indigenous mascots. All of my comments provided by me tonight are my own. I would like to start off with the question: if we built a brand new school today, in the recent cultural shifts that have taken place this year, and with the righteous demands from oppressed communities to be heard and respected, would we still assign an Indian mascot in a modern-day school? And as you reflect on the answer to this question, I would like to invite you to practice principles of cultural humility and reparative justice. Starting off with acknowledging the resistance to change and being willing to embrace change. It is a part of how we grow. Also, by acknowledging the embarrassment of having participated in racist traditions. I know I have. No one alive today is responsible for these mascots, but we are responsible to our community to do the right thing, because once you know better, you do better. And while an apology and an acknowledgement of a wrongdoing is the right start, it is certainly not enough. As an academic system, you are in a unique position to do the right thing and to educate our students and staff about race, oppression, colonization, and the history of indigenous tribes in our own region. I discourage the district from its continued use of racist mascots because of the harmful impact it has on the mental health of Brown and indigenous students and the problematic message that it sends to all students. There is a myriad of psychological, peer-reviewed research articles to support my argument that indigenous mascots have a negative impact on mental health. But it is most notable that the American Psychological Association released a resolution recommending the retirement of American Indian mascots in 2005, citing that these promote a cultural disrespect, internalized shame and oppression, discord, and many other issues. Our goal should be to mitigate racial trauma in the school setting and to promote an environment that supports the emotional and mental well-being of all of our students, with particular attention to those from systemically oppressed backgrounds. So again, if you had to name a mascot for a school in today's social context, would the term Indian still be included on a list of potential mascots? Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mike McVeigh.
Hi, I'm Mike McVeigh. I live in Lenexa. I'm a Shawnee Mission North graduate. I think something that gets overlooked is that our school name is named after our area. When the school was founded in 1922, this was the Shawnee Mission area. This rural school was created out of nowhere for the farm kids in the area. And because this had been the Shawnee Indian Reservation, that was their perception of their history of the day. And I think they were trying to honor those Shawnee who had been relocated here and then yet relocated away again. Some of them remained. Lenexa has Shawnee Heritage. Shawnee Town was what that was. And I think their goal was to honor those who had been on our land before us. And I don't think that any insult was meant. And I think that after 98 years, if this school board decides that our attempt in our community to honor the Native American heritage is insulting, I think that you would be making a decision that after 98 years would be the worst decision by this school board that it's ever made.
Thank you for joining us this evening. Our next speaker is Emmett Monslow.
Thank you all for hearing me tonight. I got a speech here. What is happening here today is wrong. You are trying to get rid of a 100-year-old tradition that up until recently has not been a problem. Now that some people are offended and because it would make you seem virtuous that you are now trying to eradicate Indians from history. The Native American people are not for removing these names. Washington Post did a study that showed that 91% of people who self-identified as Native American did not find the Washington Redskins to be offensive. We have recently had tribal governments take matters into their own hands. It is the powerful versus the people in their own hands, and have gone against the wishes of the tribal people. I have worked with NAGA, Native American Guardians Association, and have given you the opportunity to work with them too. Use this opportunity for change in the right direction. So we're focusing on education, not eradication. I want you each to know that if this policy removes this 100-year-old tradition on the grounds of being offensive, we will bring suit. This is clear discrimination. Your policy would only ban anything Native American. It does not appear to cover other ethnic or historic groups like the Vikings. The United States Code 42 U.S.C. prohibits from the unlawful use or unlawfully discriminating against a minority group. Your decision is to single out Native Americans as a class of people that cannot be represented in public school imagery and in naming per se discriminatory. Under both the 14th Amendment and Section 1983, if you proceed on the path, you will be risking federal lawsuit for illegal discrimination. There is precedence on both the state and federal level that is not on your side if you choose to remove these names. You are, however, protected in keeping these the same. Slants case, Supreme Court. I would rather see the children have the opportunity to learn more about our culture. This does not have to end in court and in the media. If you can do the right thing you can do the right thing by doing nothing at all. The name change will only further divide the community. And in regards, it sounds like as far as a compromise, we want education, but does not mean we have to get rid of this 100-year-old tradition. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us this evening. Our next speaker is Alex Redcorn.
My name is Alex Redcorn, and I'm a citizen of the Osage Nation. My Osage name is Tsamoy. I'm from the Wahakaline district near Pawhuska, Oklahoma. And I'm also a Shawnee Mission Northwest graduate. I also began my teaching career at Shawnee Mission West before returning to grad school to earn a doctorate and become an educational academic who specializes in American Indian experiences and educational systems. I'm also the executive director of the Kansas Association for Native American Education. Throughout my time at Shawnee Mission, American Indian mascots have created some extremely uncomfortable moments. For example, I witnessed school spirit banners where the students wrote, "Send them back on the Trail of Tears." I've seen a school administrator dress as an Indian with a fake headdress and dance around the gymnasium in the name of school spirit. I've endured stereotypical jokes about trading wampum and questions about drinking firewater, and I've seen cheerleaders use the gymnasium floor to imitate fake Indian songs, mocking the real songs that are sung during our sacred ceremonies. Additionally, I was held after graduation for wearing a small eagle feather on my graduation cap. These experiences made me very uncomfortable and motivated me to do more research. The research I list here is clear. First, as mentioned previously, in 2005, the American Psychological Association recommended the immediate retirement of mascots, explaining how they undermine educational experiences of all communities, especially those that have had little or no contact with indigenous peoples, and that they create unwelcome and hostile learning environments for Native Americans. Second, in 2008, research found that Native students exposed to mascots reported lower self-esteem and community worth, even when images are seen as honorable or positive. These researchers assert that American Indian mascots are harmful because they remind American Indians of the limited ways other people see them, and in this way, constrain the way that they can see themselves. Furthermore, in 2010, another study showed that American Indian exposure to mascots increased the likelihood of stereotyping other ethnic minorities, which shows us how mascots work against creating a positive school culture of belonging for every student, especially those in historically excluded or marginalized groups. Finally, in the past year, another empirical study that was written to go against the Washington Post article, because the Washington Post article is a journal, it's a newspaper survey that was done. There was an empirical study done that broke it down, and the majority of American Indians are opposed to mascots. So overall, this research is why the Kansas Association for Native American Education has joined many other Native professional organizations and have issued statements asking schools to retire this out-of-date practice. And as someone who's been affiliated with Shawnee Mission Schools for most of my life, I urge you to move on from this practice because it works against your mission and overshadows the good work you do.
Thank you for joining us this evening and for your information. Our next speaker tonight, or our last speaker tonight, is Jackie Madrigal.
Good evening. My name is Jackie Madrigal. Hello. It's been a while. I live in Westwood, Kansas. My daughter is a student at Indian Hills Middle School, and I have been a teacher at Shawnee Mission North High School for 14 consecutive years. I started when I was 13. Tonight, Tonight, I am here to speak about the monumental step the Shawnee Mission School District is quietly about to take. As you conduct your regular business, you will approve the program of studies. You do this every year without much fanfare, but this year, though you may be unaware, is historical. Tonight, you will approve the passage of the class I teach, United States Latino Literature, as an ELA credit for high school juniors and seniors. 11th and 12th graders next school year will be able to apply my class as one of the 4 English language arts credits required for graduation. Since 2015, 130 plus students have enrolled in United States Latino Literature and applied that half credit as an elective, something extra, something on top of their prescribed English language arts class. Ms. Goodburn, your son Corey very successfully completed my course in the spring of 2016. 1 semester is all I got with these risk takers, my beloved group of misfits, rebels. They dared to step outside of their traditional curriculum and take a chance on me, on this very heavy book. I always thank them because I understood the sacrifice that they made by adding Rodolfo Anaya, Juno Diaz, Gloria Anzaldúa, Isabel Allende, Esmeralda Santiago, Luis Alberto Urrea, and Jose Marti on top of their Shakespeare, Hawthorne, Twain, and Fitzgerald. But tonight, that extra is no more. Tonight, with the passage of the 2021-2022 program of studies, United States Latino Literature enters into a class of her own. I invite someone to fact check this, but I believe that United States Latino Literature will become the only academic year-long course at a public high school in the entirety of the United States that is offered for English graduation credit. Tonight, we legitimize and validate the study of the people who have been here before any arbitrary border in the sand, the original inhabitants of the Americas. This class is Indigenous, Native, Latino, Afro-Latino, and every other hue of melanin in between literature. That is how you honor Indigenous peoples. That, ladies, gentlemen, and Two-Spirit people, is something to celebrate in this year full of heartbreak. 2020 has been abysmal, and I cannot stand here and pretend to be pleased with every decision that has been made in this boardroom, but I can at least say that this, tonight, is the best thing to come out of 2020. Thank you all.
Thank you.
I will ask you if you are feeling generous in the spirit of giving. I emailed everyone earlier, and I included a link to the Latinx Lit Library, and there is my Amazon wish list. If you'd like to donate a book or 2 or 7, I'd greatly appreciate that.
And of course, anyone who's watching at home can also visit.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Madrigal. Your work on developing the curriculum for that is very much appreciated. For a recap for everyone who came to speak tonight, we have the first reading on this policy this evening. There is not a vote this evening. Our first meeting in January is a workshop, so we will not have a vote on policy at that meeting. The vote on this will come with the second reading at the second meeting in January. So again, thank you for coming this evening, and that's just the timeline so that you can be aware of that. And now we will turn it over for Dr. Fulton's superintendent report.
Okay, thank you very much. And also, we so appreciate everyone coming out tonight and sharing their thoughts. Well, I want to start off tonight by congratulating a really outstanding group of student artists in our school district. The Shawnee Mission Area Council PTA, known as the SMAC PTA, has honored students who submitted their work to this year's PTA Reflections program. Students created art in the categories of choreography, film, literature, music composition, photography, and visual arts, interpreting the theme, I Matter Because. SMAC PTA received 67 entries from students in elementary, middle, and high school from across the district. Students selected for awards of excellence will advance to compete in the State Reflections program. It is one of our favorite events of the year when we honor our Reflections artists at a board meeting. We regret that we could not recognize students in person this year due to the pandemic, but we'll include a link in the board recap so everyone in our community can see not only who is honored, but examples of their talent. And so again, congratulations to our Shawnee Mission Reflections honorees. We're also very excited to learn that the Coca-Cola Scholars Foundation named 5 Shawnee Mission seniors 2021 semifinalists. Out of 99,403 applicants, only 1.6% were selected to be semifinalists. These Shawnee Mission students are now in consideration to be regional finalists. Shawnee Mission honorees are Hananel Morinville and Glory Obi. From Shawnee Mission North, Elena Peters, Samantha Thomas, and Ava Yoon from Shawnee Mission East. We're proud of these students for their accomplishments, and congratulations to them. We're very grateful for our community partners and volunteers who support our schools, especially this year. Walmart at Roland Park, with arrangements made by the Northeast Johnson County Chamber of Commerce, donated $10,000 worth of school supplies. After the donation was made and accepted formally by the Board of Education in November, our student services team worked to distribute the needed supplies via school social workers in schools across the district. And so we want to thank them as a community partner for providing these resources that help our students to learn. Well, I want to give you a brief COVID-19 update. The Shawnee Mission School District and the Johnson County Department of Health and Environment have been working closely together throughout the pandemic, and will continue to collaborate on the next phase in combating COVID-19, which is, fortunately, vaccine distribution. JCDHE is following protocols for distribution to priority groups identified by the Kansas Department of Health and Environment and the Centers for Disease Control. We're in regular communication with the health department, and as soon as vaccine is available for staff and or students, we'll share that information. Keeping schools safe and operating has been and continues to be a focus of our pandemic response. It's important to recognize, however, that while there's light at the end of this tunnel, we must maintain the mitigation efforts that we currently have in place, at least until the end of the school year. As part of that ongoing effort, the SMSD COVID dashboard was updated today. The next update will be on January 11th, 2021. JCDHE has informed us that it's planning on making some revisions to its COVID case tracking mechanism for school districts. So we may see some changes second semester to the SMSD COVID dashboard directly related to the JCDHE revisions. JCDHE is implementing these changes in order to make data reporting actually easier for all districts. Beginning on January 4th, 2021, our school district nurses and COVID team members will begin working from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., matching the hours the health department is open. Working around the clock, including evenings and weekends, as they have been doing, is just not a sustainable model. They're worn out. And so we want to make sure and honor their time, protect their health as well. And so hence we're going to go with those hours from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., matching what the county does. So that's an update with our hardworking nurses. The federal funding for testing ends December 31st. We're going to resume testing when notified by JCDHE that the resources are available to do so, hopefully by mid-January. SMSD continues to work with the MWAD, MOD, Pathology and Clinical Reference Laboratory for on-site COVID testing of students and staff. We've completed 2 weeks of testing special education staff, SPED staff, at 19 program sites, and we'll resume testing when it's reinstated in January. So we're very thankful for that partnership. And then finally, the Kansas Department of Health and Environment has partnered with Well Health for COVID testing at Shawnee Mission North High School. And that's on Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Now, they're also testing at other Johnson County sites. This testing, it's important to note, is not affiliated with the school district other than the fact that they're using our site, but it really is an excellent testing resource for our community. So we're thankful for that partnership as we continue to do our part to help battle COVID-19 in our community. Another important update is calendar adjustment. Recently, the Kansas Department of Education informed school districts that it will be accepting waiver requests to provide limited relief to school districts concerning meeting the required 1,116 hours of instruction this school year. We're going to work on preparing a waiver request when that window opens in January and plan on bringing that to the Board of Education at a future meeting with a revised calendar that will slightly shorten the school year. And I know this has been a tough school year for everybody, so the extent to which we can maybe shorten that a little bit for staff and students, that'd be helpful. Again, there's going to be more information forthcoming, and we have to submit our waiver request first. I also want to mention that the district recently partnered with PCs for People, KC Digital Drive, and Johnson County Public Library to hold a mass computer distribution event earlier this month. The program also received support from the Johnson County CARES funds. 160 families qualified to receive a free or reduced cost PC for their home to help support communication, connectivity, education, and employment opportunities. So that's very exciting for those families that had that need in their lives. I'm glad that we could partner with other entities and help provide that. And also thank you to the staff that are making all of these things I'm mentioning tonight happen. The Internet Access Support Program, a program for those needing Internet access, is open to those who live in the greater Kansas City region, including Johnson County residents. Families needing help paying for the Internet are able to register or apply for assistance while funds remain through December 31st. We're going to provide a link in the recap for those who may need this resource. So from hardware to access the Internet, we're doing what we can to help our community. Well, winter break's almost upon us, and we want everyone to keep in mind that the mail-in vote on the Shawnee Mission bond proposal is right around the corner. Ballots are expected to land in mailboxes soon after we return from winter break in early January. We have a video to share with you all tonight that has important information for all of our voters in the community, and we're going to play that video right now.
Attention Shawnee Mission voters! You have an important decision to make in the next few weeks. You'll be asked to vote on a bond proposal. Our goal is to keep our district one of the best in the nation by employing awesome educators who work in amazing facilities where students can do their best. This vote is taking place by mail only, and you have some important dates to remember. December 28th, 2020 is the last day to register to vote. January 5th is the last day for late voter registration. Check to make sure you are registered by visiting www.jocoelection.org. Right after the new year begins, it will be time to watch your mailboxes. If you are a registered voter, you'll receive your ballot. There are a few easy steps to take. Read and fill out your ballot carefully. Fold your ballot and put it in the provided envelope. Don't forget to sign and seal your envelope. Return your ballot to the election office right away. You can mail your ballot, or you can deliver it directly to the election office or an official drop box. All ballots must arrive at the election office by noon on January 26th, 2021. Shawnee Mission wants to make learning better for all students now and far into the future. Thank you for voting.
Well, what a great video. We certainly want to give a word of thanks in particular to Lauren Boomer, who's a fourth grader at Briarwood and She provided the video narration, so she did a wonderful job. Thank you, Lauren, for doing that. Well, we're coming up to winter break, and I want to thank everyone who shared well wishes for me as I announced my retirement. I'm not going anywhere for a while here, so I won't perseverate on that, but it's been an honor to serve as superintendent of the Shawnee Mission School District. And you know, this week, as we begin winter break, people are going to take some time off, and it's very well deserved. There's been a lot about the 2020 school year that's been tremendously difficult, actually calendar year. But there are aspects that we can all hope to remember and celebrate, especially those moments when we come together as a compassionate and caring community, taking care of ourselves, each other, and also supporting our school district and all of the educators and children who are part of that, along with parents, of course. And I want to thank all of our educators, staff, parents, and community members and students for the many ways in which they keep our school district strong. I hope everyone's able to find some time to relax and recharge over the break. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Fulton. The next item on our agenda is our board reports from our board members. We'll start with Ms. Borgman. Do you have a report for us from SMAC?
Yeah, I have a couple things. It might be easier if I just read a few things from SMAC. The first thing is from the president of SMAC PTA, and it is, as it says, SMAC PTA endorses the bond 2021. Several PTA units throughout the district have and will continue to host Committee for Excellence guest speakers, along with Board of Education and SMSD administration guest speakers, providing input and information regarding the bond 2021. Beginning again January 7th, 2021, the clothing exchange will continue to be open to shoppers on Thursdays from 4 to 7 p.m. And then regarding the SMAC clothing, I just thought this was a really sweet story that was passed along from the SMAC Clothing Center. It has been so wonderful seeing so many people in our SMSD community who've stepped up and donated when we have called for help. One week we had 2 social workers request clothes for a 2XL boy and a 3XL boy. We rarely have good selections in those sizes, but these students were very much in need. I made a request on social media, and we had 2 Good Samaritans place orders on Amazon, and we have brand new clothes that were shipped directly to the clothing exchange, as well as several people who dropped off quite a few bags of items. We were able to provide both boys with several new items, including coats, hoodies, pants, shirts, socks, and underwear, and have several items available to put on our shopping floor for others. I am consistently amazed at how much this program provides to both those in need and those who want to share. So, a sweet little update from SMAC Clothing Center.
Thank you. That is very nice. Ms. Hembry, update from the Education Foundation.
Yeah, I would just note, I know a lot of people do end-of-year giving and consider Shawnee Mission Education Foundation, especially for the CARES Fund. It's been really important for our community over the past 9 months as we've weathered COVID-19. So as people think about end-of-year giving, just consider Shawnee Mission Education Foundation. It's smef.org.
Thank you.
Yep.
Do you have to designate on your check for the CARES Fund? All right, how does that work? Do you know?
I think you can do it through their website.
Okay, thank you. Reverend Guy, do you have an update for us from the KSB Board of Directors?
KASB had their first online-only annual conference, the first week in December. I saw several of you in some of the events that I attended, but I do want to remind you that the videos, the workshop videos, are available to us for the next year, which is the one upside of all of this. Usually when you're in person, you choose one and that's it. You miss out on all the others. But we have the opportunity this year to actually go back and watch all of the presentations we couldn't see at the time. So just want to remind you that that resource is still out there, and you can go back and watch any of those that you want to at your leisure. And that's all.
Thank you. Dr. Sinclair, do you have a KSB Legislative Liaison update for us?
The only relevant piece of information to add there is that we are meeting January 21st for the final approval of the legislative platform. So during the convention, more input was solicited from members. So that'll be those changes will be incorporated, or that feedback will be incorporated, and then final vote January 21st. I also did serve as the delegate assembly on behalf of Reverend Guy, and all three motions were approved. So Jason Winbolt will be the next KASB board president-elect. He's from Spring Hill. The amendments to the KASB Constitution were passed, and that worked pretty well, I think, the online voting.
Well, thank you, and thank you for your time attending. The Policy Review Committee, Ms. Goodburn, do you have an update for us? I know we have several things that we're voting on tonight, and we can do those then, but is there additional?
That's all I was going to update, is we have 502, which is a second reading policy, new policy board, policy DBB, and then 5.03, we have the first read of the new board policy ACA, school mascots, later on.
Thank you. You guys have been busy. And then for the Finance and Facilities Committee, Brad, do you have an update for us?
We have met since the last meeting, but two things to point out. Obviously, the bond is around the corner, and a lot of the work that's reflected in the bond comes out of the Facilities and Finance Committee, as well as the other board committees. But on the website, there's a tab that's listed as Bond 2021. So on the district website, smsd.org, there's a Bond 2021, and then there's a whole page called Research and History. For those that want to dive in, all the videos of our meetings are there. All the documentation from those or information is on that page too. So I want to let folks here know, any voters that might be out there as well interested, that the Bond 2021 tab on the Shawnee Mission School District website has a lot of good information. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes our board reports, and we'll move on to the board financial report. Turn it over to Dr. Fulton and Russ Knapp.
Okay, thank you. Well, Russell Knapp, our Chief Financial Officer, will provide the board financial report.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. So attached to the board docs tonight is the monthly board report for the November 30th, 2020. I was only going to point out one update on the CARES Act fund. I've told you in previous meetings that Johnson County has obligated $1.2 million of their coronavirus relief fund. And we filed that claim, and we're glad to report that we got that check from Johnson County for $1.2 million. So for the Shawnee Mission's CARES Act money, if you recall, we originally got $2.9 million awarded to us. We've spent $1.7 million, and that leaves us $1.2 million to spend on CARES Act, and we have to September of 21 to spend that. So that's all I wanted to mention on the financial reports, unless you have any other questions for me.
Are there any questions for Russ at this time? Okay. Well, we'll move on to our next item, which I believe is still under Russ with the CAFR report.
Absolutely, and Mr. Knapp is going to help us with our CAFR report, and we also have with us Karen Lynn, Managing Director from BT and Company, and so we'll go ahead and Russ, turn it over to you.
Yes, thank you. So I'm pleased to present to the board tonight our comprehensive annual financial report, or CAFR, and it is as of June 30th, 2020. As you're aware, state statute requires us to be audited each year by an independent public accounting firm. This year, BT and Company conducted that audit. This is the first time they've conducted our audit. You recall we always had Meishauser. So with us tonight is Karen Lynn. She's our Managing Director for BT and Company, and she oversaw the audit. So I will let her walk through the audit report that's attached to board docs. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. I appreciate the few moments of your meeting this evening to go through the results of the audit. What I'd like to do is to just present to you those pieces of information from the audit that are important for you to hear from me as the auditor. So first, we performed the audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards. Those standards require that we plan and perform the audit with the objective of forming an opinion as to whether the financial statements are free of material misstatement. So we design our audit with that objective in mind. We were able to form the opinion that the financial statements are free of material misstatement, which is an unmodified opinion and the best opinion that can be given to a set of financial statements. We also performed the audit in accordance with government auditing standards. This is due to the $15 million of federal dollars that you receive through the district. That requires compliance and internal control testing of your federal programs. This year we did select the child nutrition program as the program that we did our compliance and internal control testing. That resulted in no findings or any internal control issues that were identified in that program. Again, a very positive conclusion from that test work. You will note that the report is still in draft form. Normally we would bring this in final form. However, because of the CARES Act being issued earlier in the year because of the pandemic, the OMB, Office of Management and Budget, is issuing a compliance supplement, which has yet to be issued, that is going to provide some additional compliance testing that needs to be performed, and they have not yet issued that. So we are holding that report for that to come out. We did get an email today that says that they are planning on putting it on their website on Christmas Eve, on Thursday. So, but we have been promised it since September, so we'll see if that actually comes. But we are expecting it here very soon. So after that, we should be able to finalize the report. But through the audit, we do look at accounting policies, and we look at significant transactions. We also look at significant estimates. Those significant estimates include things like the other post-employment benefit liability that's on your financial statements, and also the self-insurance reserves and the net pension liability. Those significant estimates are items that we look at through our audit procedures and the process, and we did determine that those estimations were reasonable. There were some audit adjustments that we identified during the audit process. Those are available in the documents that were uploaded for your review, and so that you can take a look at those adjustments. Other things that we bring to your attention is that management provided everything that we needed for the audit process in a timely manner, and we were provided everything in full cooperation. So all of those, again, all of those conclusions from the audit were very positive. And I believe I mentioned that all of the conclusions from the single audit and the federal testing, again, no findings and no deficiencies were reported. There's also a management's representation letter that is included with those documents that provides a lot of information regarding the financial statements and just supporting information underlying the financial statements. So we do encourage you to read through that letter. As you read through the financial statements, there's a lot of information that helps support the financial statements, and we believe that information can help you with your fiduciary responsibility towards financial accounting matters, and so we do encourage you to take a little time to read through that with the financial statements. So with that and those conclusions, I would open for any questions that anyone might have.
Are there any board members with questions at this time? Seeing none, thank you both so much for being here this evening and providing your update. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is the Human Resources Update. Dr. Fulton.
Okay, thank you very much. We have Dr. Michael Schumacher, who is our Interim Associate Superintendent of Human Resources, and team members from his department provide an overview of our staffing and recruiting efforts and also our services that we're receiving from Priority One. So Dr. Schumacher, it's all yours.
Thank you, Dr. Fulton. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you this evening and to share some philosophy and some vision of our department and really to celebrate some of our successes this school year. I would tell you that we started out with about 40 slides. We've pared that down, so you're welcome. We don't want to take up a ton of your time, but we do want to give you just a brief overview of some philosophy and vision. We're really proud of the work of our team and just want to share that with you. Tonight we'll be bringing up some colleagues, some friends tonight, Ms. Michelle Morse, who is our coordinator of classified HR, and many other duties as assigned this year. She's going to help. Mr. Kevin Hansford, he's our Director of Elementary Services. This year he has served as our elementary staffing expert, done a wonderful job. Ms. Pam Lewis is our Director of Elementary Services as well. She has served in recruiting with us. And missing tonight, a very valuable member of our team, Dr. Tyrone Bates, who is taking some much deserved time with his family on some vacation around the holidays. He has been an integral part of our team as well around recruiting also and really developing some new great recruiting initiatives. So to begin with, I'm going to lead us off and just center us, as we typically do, around our mission and our strategic plan. Anytime that you hear from one of us around a board report or around a department philosophy, we always like to tie it into what we believe in as a district. So of course that's our mission, that we will be inclusive, that we'll be engaged with our community, and that will provide robust opportunities that challenge our learners. The next part, of course, is our strategic plan. You know that a couple years ago, Dr. Fulton led a community effort to develop a strategic plan that anchors all of our work together. As a department, we've taken that to heart, and we've developed goals that tie into our strategic plan. We feel like that's something that all of our departments should do, and we've taken that to heart as an HR team. So again, to give you just kind of an overview, an overarching view of the work that we do and how we've tied it to the strategic plan, to give you a little bit of history, this summer, as a team, we came together and we tried to determine exactly how do we support our strategic plan. And we developed two goals. So those two goals are: one, we will improve the academic outcomes of each student by surrounding them with the best teachers, administrators, and support staff possible. We feel like that is a big way that we can support this strategic plan. Two, we will encourage the personal growth of each student by serving the professional needs of all of our employees. Again, we feel like if we serve the professional needs of our employees, they will in turn be able to serve the needs of our students. So you might be asking yourself, well, what exactly does that mean? What are tangible things that we do as a department? So again, we looked at what we do, and we found that there are 6 big areas that we support the district. Recruiting and staffing, of course, a big one. Safety of our employees, employee relations, compensation and benefits, compliance, of course, is part of the work that we do, and then finally training, development, and evaluation. Now, of course, some of these are more exciting than others, and given that we have limited time, I wanted to focus in on some timely pieces that we're working on, and of course, those that might be of most interest to us. And so we're going to focus in on recruiting and staffing tonight, a little bit on safety, and a little bit on compliance. So jumping in, this will be my last section. I'm going to kick it to a teammate of mine, just to give you an overarching view of recruitment. So to start with, we take a look at the cycle of staff support. And as a team, we believe in this cycle of staff support. We don't feel like once we recruit and hire someone that our work is done. We feel like we need to continue to work with those staff members, develop them, coach them, and grow them. It's not just our department that does this. Of course, we partner with leadership and learning. We partner with principals. We partner with their mentors, the PLC process. But it is an ongoing cycle. For our employees, they will enter this cycle, of course, in that top left-hand column, but we will cycle them through. As a philosophy, you know, it is a bad business model continue to hire and hire and hire. What we want to do is coach, develop, evaluate, and keep them in the system and retain them in the system. So that overarching is our goal. Before I kick it again to that's my slide, to our next team member, just again, a little around philosophy, the how and the why of recruiting. So how, we understand that as a team, as a department, that we are competing. We're competing for the best candidates out there, right? There's a limited pool of excellent teacher candidates, and we understand that they are interviewing us as much as we are interviewing them. So in working with our principals, we realize we have to create an experience around interviewing. We have to really roll out the red carpet. That interview experience has to be top-notch. We have to provide a connection with our staff. When they interview, they're not only interviewing with principals, they're interviewing with teachers and coaches and counselors. That we sell that school reputation, our district reputation. And then we absolutely celebrate our facilities. Going back to what I initially said, we want to place, grow, and retain these staff members. And then finally, for my part here, the why. We know that our teachers, our employees can have a direct impact on our students. Our greatest resource is our people. All students deserve the best team, and so quality matters. It's not just about test scores. Our community depends on us to grow social and emotional support and academic achievement for our kids. And then finally, we need to look beyond qualified. Again, we have a great reputation in Shawnee Mission. We're able to recruit high-quality candidates, but we need to look beyond qualified, what they can do right now. Because again, our reputation, we're going to get high GPAs and great, content knowledge, pieces like that. We need to look at their ceiling. What's their will? What's their top quality? So, one of the things that we're trying to grow in our students are these non-cognitive or soft skills, those things that are going to carry forth into the workplace. That's also what we're looking for in our teachers that we try to hire. Are they communicators? Can they problem solve? Do they have confidence and capacity to grow? So a little bit around philosophy, and one of the big pieces of our department, of course, recruiting and staffing. So with that, I'm going to throw it to Mr. Hansford, and he's going to talk more about staffing.
So just really quickly, in terms of elementary staffing, and I'll get to the really timely part here, just a reminder that, earlier in the year, we did allow families to select their learning model for the fall, asking if they would be making a selection for the remainder of the year, with a caveat that they could make a request at this period in time to, again, change that from in-person to remote or from remote back to in-person. And so this is just a reminder that what we did at that period of time early on is we took those requests and had to physically adjust staffing, so moving teachers from remote positions back to in-person positions and vice versa to accommodate each of those requests. And so at this point in time, we're now at the where they can make a learning model change request for the second semester. And that will work slightly differently. That window just opened today. And so through Skyward, parents are able to make a selection that says, I'd like to go from in-person to remote, or from remote to in-person in my home school only, which would mean that we would look at the space, the classroom availability, space availability in that building, and place students based on our classroom caps of 24 for kindergarten through second grade and 27 for third through sixth. We also offer the option of in-person, any location for families that need their students to go back on site, but there may not be room in their homeschool location. And so Pam and I will both be going at a process where we would first consider the homeschool for those families, and then we would again look for buildings close in their area where we might be able to place their students in an in-person position. And again, that window opened today. We'll close after winter break. We really felt like it was important to give families time to think about it and really make a decision. And if families are anything like we are right now, there are too many decisions being made, so give them some time when we're out of school. And that window closes on January 6th, and then Pam and I will start to work very quickly in considering those requests and the order that they're received, with the goal of then getting everyone placed prior to the beginning of second semester. So that'll be our goal. And then for high school, now they're going through a process similar to what we did earlier in the year, where they're actually making a learning model change. And based on the data, it will really be sort of a 50-50 wash. It won't significantly change staffing. There aren't significant numbers going one way or the other. Dr. Schumacher can speak more specifically about the data. I haven't reviewed that nearly so closely, but in terms of staffing, it will keep things very much the same as we move forward into making those changes.
So we also wanted to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about staffing for next year and focus in on the workload piece that has been at the forefront of much of our conversation moving forward. And this is a slide that we've used in the past but it's a reminder of the work that Strategic Action Committee 322 committed to last school year, and that you have been a part of taking action on recently. So as a reminder, this is a potential for us to address the workload situation of our secondary teachers. Want to thank the IBB team as well as you as a board in budgeting $920,000 already towards this process. And so just as a reminder, that $920,000 will account for about 12 teachers, about 12 FTE that we can apply additionally to our normal course of staffing for the 21-22 school year. And then the other pieces are tied to the bond referendum. And so if there's those extra funds, that $2.3 million could account for an additional 30 teachers, which would also be applied towards that workload of our secondary teachers as well. We're going to talk a little bit more about that hiring process here with the next group. And so I'll call up Ms. Michelle Morse and Ms. Pam Lewis.
Thank you, Dr. Schumacher. So with regard to classified recruiting efforts, the resources that we typically use, of course, are the district website. We do post all of our vacancies on our district website. Also, with the assistance of the communications department, which we greatly appreciate, we also do media blasts via Facebook, Twitter, the district website, and those have proven to be very successful. Another resource that we utilize would be Indeed.com. I'm sure you've all heard of that. That also has really increased the exposure to our vacancies and really drawn in applicants that we might not normally see just via our website. So that has proven to be very successful, and we do use the free version of that. So, you know, we've been very successful with that. We've even gone a little old school and had yard signs and banners printed, now hiring. And those, you know, obviously increase our exposure because you don't have to go looking for that. You can be driving by and you see a sign, and so that's been successful as well. One of the events that we typically host each year in July would be the classified job fair. Obviously this year that was not a possibility for us, but that is very successful for us. It's a great event that we host. We honestly have hundreds of people that will show up to that event. We're able to get a lot of our staff hired for the beginning of the school year. So as soon as conditions are a little better, that will be one of the first events that we plan to host.
I'm going to talk a little bit about recruitment efforts, and Dr. Bates and I have been working together on this, and so I want to give a shout out to him for all of his effort and collaboration with me on this. But there are just a lot of shout outs to give, because I will definitely say that this has been a collaborative effort between the leadership and learning team and the human resources team throughout the entire semester. And so I'm going to highlight that as we talk through the process. First of all, some highlights of recruitment. Of course, due to the situation, all of our events have been virtual. So we've been attending virtual events through all of the regional colleges and universities, meet and greets, mock interviews. And then we had an action plan where we had immediate follow-up with those applicants. And so we had a specific plan that we had in place to have follow-ups and follow-up interviews and reference checks to really facilitate that process with them. We also had our annual district interview night. Again, it was in a virtual event, so that really put in a lot of work on the HR staff. And so I cannot say, wow, just a huge shout out to everyone in the HR department just working together to get everybody set up. Of course, the principals that give their evening and time to conduct the interviews, but it was an outstanding event, even though we had to make that adjustment to virtual. And the link there is the video that also went out to all of the candidates so they could kind of get a little bit of insight since they couldn't actually come and visit the school district. And then another piece is really connecting and observing our current student interns, developing those relationships, teaching them as much as we can about Shawnee Mission, supporting them and their growth as an educator, and then just really accelerating the interview process for all of those interns that are already in our district. And that's been successful as well. And it's exciting to see them in our classrooms, and then already some of them getting excited to take on their own classrooms here in January.
And so following all of these initial recruitment events, our principals continued with follow-up interviews and reference checks to go ahead and move forward in the process at a much quicker rate than we normally do, because as Dr. Schumacher said, we want the very best for our kids, and so it takes us working hard to do that and giving up a lot of time and energy and working as a team to accomplish that. And I'm really proud of everyone working together on that, because we did really make some great strides with that, as you can see with the celebration of our early hires, which is a much higher number than we usually ever have at this time of year. I want to also highlight, as part of our recruitment efforts, our partnerships. We have professional development school partnerships across the district with KU and K-State at different schools, Marion Park, East Antioch, Apache. And we're getting ready to really develop our partnership with MNU, and it's called the RISE Partnership, and it's recruiting and inspiring, supporting future educators, and it's a big focus on recruiting minority applicants and supporting them throughout their practicums as well as their student internships. So it's an ongoing partnership. Dr. Bates and I went out and did interviews, and we were really excited. You actually interview them, and they're interviewing you, and then you give them a draft letter, and they decide what school districts they want to accept. And so we were really excited. We have an additional secondary student joining us for the coming school year, and 4 elementary students. And so we're really excited, because that is definitely an increase in participation. And so we are really setting up more of a PDS kind of partnership with additional training for them. So they will be coming into, at the elementary level, Shawnee Elementary. We'll have all of those students together, so they'll be their own cohort group. We can provide additional professional learning around classroom management, around effective instructional strategies, and they can just be a part of the school rather than spread out into different areas of the district. So we're really excited to work with Shawnee on that partnership, and those students would be in that school for multiple years as they develop throughout the program. And then hopefully, we of course would hope that they would select Shawnee Mission for, of course, to join our team permanently. And then I also wanted to follow up with an update on the strategic plan. I've been able to join in with that team this year, Strategy 2.2, around that inclusive, equitable culture, as well as recruitment of minority candidates. And we met this past month. Of course, Dr. Bates leads that strategic plan team. And so this first meeting was really more about adding on some additional members, kind of giving them the background. And then this next meeting will be more about what's our action plan to actually accomplish the work. So we'll be moving into actions into this next meeting that we have. And so again, just want to say, one more thing I forgot to mention. We've been really busy. We're also working on an SMSD recruit team. And so Dr. Bates and I have been interviewing teachers across the district that want to be a part of the recruitment team, because we really feel like it's important that, Shawnee Mission is the people in the district, and we want to recruit the best, but we also want to get to know others, not just because we want them to come to Shawnee Mission, but we want them to know who we are, and we want to get to know them and develop those relationships. So our SMSD recruit team is teachers that want to join in on the recruiting. So we'll be doing some training, also problem solving, some different recruitment initiatives that we can work on together beyond just our events that we have at our universities. But we had a great response. We probably interviewed 30 to 40 people last week, Thursday and Friday, and we're getting their responses on whether they want to join in on SMSD Recruit. And so I think probably in another meeting we'll be able to really feature that and give you some updates, but we're just getting it underway and we're super excited about it.
Thank you, Pam, and thanks to Ms. Morris. Obviously, Dr. Bates and Pam have done a wonderful job of extending the recruiting efforts of our team. Finally, for our presentation, before we move on to priority 1, just wanted to give the board and our community an update on FFCRA. If you don't know what that acronym stands for, it's in the news quite a bit lately, but it's the Family First Coronavirus Response Act. This is an act that has come into play in all businesses across the United States and, of course, school systems as well. It was signed into law on March 18th by the President. It is set to expire here in a few days. It's set to expire on December 31st. We've been waiting to try to communicate what we're going to do with this as late as we can in the hopes that something were to have happened. It doesn't appear that anything's going to. So tomorrow we're going to communicate to our staff some information on how we're going to continue to support them outside of the Act. So just real quickly, it's on the slide, but the benefits that the Act does provide our staff essentially are two things. EPSL, Emergency Paid Sick Leave, and basically what this provides to our staff are 10 paid leave days outside of their typical leave and for exposure outside of the workplace. So if you're exposed at your son's baseball game or whatever, this would apply. It also provides our staff EFMLA, or Emergency Family Medical Leave. This is up to 12 weeks, partially paid, 2/3 their daily rate. They can make themselves whole by using their own temporary leave for up to 12 weeks. Typically, what our staff have been using this for is the care of a child due to the closure of a school, their school or daycare. Again, this act is set to expire on December 31st. Beyond the act, what our district has provided to our employees is paid administrative leave. And so what we have been doing and will continue to do is provide essentially unlimited administrative leave due to exposure within the workplace. And so if we can show that the exposure is in the workplace, we provide that administrative leave. We intend to extend parts of this act, and we will announce that to our staff tomorrow in support of them. Independent of what happens with legislation, we know that the same needs are going to exist January 1st moving forward, and so we feel like that's the absolute right thing to do. Okay, so that's the end of basically the Shawnee Mission portion of it, and so I'm going to call up Ms. Erin Eason to give a report on Priority 1. Just a little bit of a lead in here. 3 years ago, our district did something very innovative in opening a district health clinic for its employees. It's a model that other industries have had provided its employees in the past, but it was a new concept to education. Not only is this a tremendous service to our employees, it too is a selling product for us when we're out recruiting. So tonight we're hoping to provide a very quick update on our clinic, and to do that is Erin. Erin works for CBiz and is our contact and conduit to the clinic. And so Erin, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I just want to spend a few minutes just talking a little bit about what utilization looked like in our third year of clinic, of having a health center in place, and then talk a little bit about the patient's feedback and the financials. So from a utilization standpoint, year 3 represents August 1 of 2019 through 7/31 of 2020. So as you can tell, that's a significant portion of this last clinic year was during the pandemic. So from a utilization standpoint, almost 1,500 employees utilized the health center at least one time. And that's 52%, up from the prior year at 41%. 23% of dependents and spouses collectively also utilized the health center. That's also an increase over the prior year. In total, we had over 1,600 individual users of the health center, which is fantastic in any year, but specifically in the context of this year and the challenges that were presented in terms of accessing health. That represented 3,700 visits in total. And you can see on the right-hand side of this slide is a comparison of the prior year to this year in terms of visits. And that was something that we did just to have a context of what, if anything, COVID, how it impacted utilization. And you can see that we ended up, we were above the prior year in terms of unique participants. We were just below the prior year, 2% in total in terms of unique visits. And you can tell that most of that impact came from the initial quarantine and then summer months that came out of that. So we have every indication that we're going to continue to build utilization. It's going to continue to increase. The health center began offering televisits in the midst of what was going on, continues to do that, which we actually view as a real positive in the context of just regular day-to-day activities of anyone working in a school. And so I think that that's going to ultimately be a large benefit. So this is just satisfaction information. After every visit an individual has, they're offered the opportunity to provide feedback. I will say we did turn this off beginning March, I believe, 13th. We turned it off because it's performed on an iPad typically, and with everything going on, it just didn't feel like a safe thing to continue. It has been turned back on via the iPad, as well as they utilize a disposable sheath that goes over it, and then we also have a QR code that folks can scan and complete the survey on their own. But what you can see here, I'm going to just highlight the bottom three statistics that are pretty astounding. 100% of the folks who responded viewed the services provided as good or excellent. 100% said that they were either likely or very likely to return, and 100% indicated that their privacy was maintained and confidentiality is maintained. The Priority One Health Center has phenomenal feedback in terms of patient satisfaction, and my LASIK is failing me, so I'm going to read just a couple things from my phone. So in the context of the survey, we do ask if people want to provide free-form comments. And what you've got here are some comments from, this actually extended beyond the clinic year because there were so many powerful ones, some tied specifically to their response to COVID, that I just wanted to highlight the first few, and then feel free to read the rest on your own. Priority One Health Center is wonderful. The doctors are caring and knowledgeable. Appointments are easy to book, and I've never had to wait to see a physician. Thanks for such a blessing. The next one is in reference to Jen Simon, who is our new behavioral health therapist that has begun seeing patients in the health center. She has been booked solid, and this is really meeting a need, and I just wanted to share one of the pieces of feedback we received on Jen. I'm loving having therapy on my plan hour. This is what we need for all of our teachers this year. Ms. Simon is going to be stretched thin. They were right. We're working on it. The care is always high quality. I feel fortunate that I have access to this medical office. Thank you so much for the services provided. It brings so much confidence and support and help needed so I can get back to work and life as soon as possible. Every provider is mentioned in these comments, which is why we chose some of them, but we constantly see incredibly positive feedback from the Shawnee Mission School District staff, and I'm constantly impressed at the Priority One staff and how phenomenally they work to treat your folks. They go above and beyond on a daily basis, and I just think we're very lucky to have them. So moving on to the financials, just at a high level, Shawnee Mission School District employees that utilize the health center saved just under $80,000 in comparison to what they would have spent in the community. This is a conservative estimate. It doesn't take into fact that there are procedures performed, stitches, mole removals. It doesn't take into effect the medications that people receive. This is just purely an office visit, one-to-one. They saved just under $80,000. They've saved since the health center opened, so 3 years, just under $300,000. So high quality, and then the financial benefit to the employees exists as well. And then the last slide I just will touch on just shows you our year 3 experience from a financial standpoint. The health center cost the district about $1.38 million. It's about $40,000 under the budgeted amount, so we ran well in that context. Cost avoided by utilizing the health center and also by just maintaining individuals' health and well-being, therefore impacting their medical and pharmacy plan expenses as well as work comp, were just over $5.8 million. That's a $4.4 million return on investment, which means 4.2 to 1. So for every $1 spent to operate the health center, you avoided spending $4.20. Looking at that across the entirety of the health center being open, that's a $2.9 to 1 or $2.90 avoided for every $1 spent. And I think I might have hit my time.
Got it. Nice job. All right, Erin, thank you so much. So we've presented a lot of information to you, a lot of different information. Our team will stand for any questions that you have.
Okay, if we can just go around the circle and start with Ms. Embry, that'd be great.
I would just be curious, I don't know if Priority One does vaccines, but I'd be curious what vaccines you offer now and if you're I know there's still a lot to be answered about how vaccines are going to be distributed, but if you're gearing up to be able to provide vaccines to our educators once they're available.
Sure. So typical adult vaccines are what are carried in the health center, and I don't have the complete list, but anything from obviously flu vaccine, DTaP, I believe we carry Hep B. There's a complete list actually on the website. In terms of the vaccine strategy for COVID, there's a process in place for providers to register to become eligible to administer the vaccine. That process has been started. There's just so much unknown with regards to how quickly vaccines are going to be available to provide in the health center, and then obviously still unknown about the disease, whether these will be vaccines that are provided on an ongoing basis or not. But Marathon Health has, who operates the health center on behalf of the district, has an entire group dedicated to sort of ensuring that they're staying abreast of all of the needs and opportunities to continue to help.
Thank you.
Sure.
Ms. Goodburn?
I just have a comment. I love seeing this, thank you for all the data and the ROI. I think this is great data for us. Thank you.
I have a question regarding the therapist. I have had a couple of teachers reach out and say that she needs to have additional availability if possible, and if there's anything we can do to create additional availability for her.
So I'll take that one on a little bit. So we have discussed as a department extending her hours, and we're working with Ms. Eason and her team as well. We have some additional fallout funds from the operation of Priority 1 that we feel like we can apply towards her extra hours. We're not quite ready to share exactly what that's going to look like. We want to make sure that we can deal with the need and the volume in an appropriate fashion, but there are steps that we're taking. Erin?
And we're going to measure. It's hard to know if the need is so great because of the environment, if it's going to be a sustained need, or if it's going to be just, we've got an influx of individuals who are open to it, and then we're going to start to plateau or decrease. And so we're trying to be very strategic about how we're making recommendations around this. And that's why we started where we started. We're taking on some additional, we're going to kind of watch, wait, see how that looks, and then figure out what our next steps are.
That's great. I know I heard from one who said that she was only making like bi-weekly appointments, and they'd really hoped that they could do a weekly appointment on their plan time. I mean, just with the rate of anxiety at this time, it seems like that would be a real beneficial thing if we're able to do it. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Sinclair?
Thank you for all the information you provided today. I have a quick question about the Family First Act.
Yeah.
And so if I understand that correctly, we're going to be, as a district, extending some of those benefits, kind of regardless of what happens at the federal level. Is that
That's correct.
accurate?
Yes.
Okay, and then are we then able to access some of the 1.7 million in our CARES Act funds to cover those costs, or is that something we're still kind of working out?
Not sure. I invite Dr. Atha or Mr. Knapp to respond to that.
I don't think you can at this point. I don't think that was spelled out in the guidelines originally
Okay,
as an allowable expense.
okay. Thank you.
Brad?
All of my questions have been asked. Thanks.
Thank you. Reverend Guy?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Borgman?
My first question is for Dr. Schumacher. So I really appreciate the implementation of the strategic plan as we've moved forward with hiring, specifically as it relates to DE&I. And so, and thank you for those efforts that you all have been, really putting into that. Can you share with us how recruiting has looked differently this year compared to years past with the strategic plan in place and with the DE&I focus?
Yeah, as far as, it's been quite a bit different because of the virtual aspect of it. In the past, Dr. Sig and myself, my counterpart, the past couple of years would go out and we identified, areas in which we felt like we could find pools of more diverse candidates. And so we went to the Southeast, we went to the Northeast, we went to different areas. We went to historically black colleges and universities, and we've continued those efforts, but in a virtual fashion. We've, of course, extended our team, and we're really excited about the fact that we've developed this new teacher recruit team that's going to go out and, for all intents and purposes, represent the teachers that we want to recruit, a diverse look of who we are as a school district. As far as the tangible results, if that's what you're asking, I can tell you that anecdotally, I feel like we're making some headway. I can't tell you empirically that we've recruited this amount of diverse candidates or anything like that. We only know those final results after we've onboarded them, and they declare who they are and declare that race, ethnicity. So I'm not sure if that answers your question. Okay.
It just helps give a good, clear picture as to how things look different with the DE&I and Dr. Bates working alongside the process.
It's been a great addition to our team for sure.
Okay.
Yep.
And then my second question, so Mr. Hansford, you had mentioned if there's no room at a student's home school, then the district will move that student to the sort of the next closest school, I'm assuming. What, do we have transportation offered then for those students, or what does that look like for kids?
So no, what we stipulated was we couldn't provide transportation, just because not knowing the numbers and that type of thing. And so it would require that the parents transport. And then that actual placement will be a recommendation. So basically we would send them we would give them a call and say, hey, here are some options. And then they'll just have to declare by the end of that period of time whether they want that placement or want to remain in their current placement. And so that was the best possibility we could give for people that really needed an in-person placement where there might not be classroom space.
Do you anticipate that to be a large number, fairly small, or do you?
Well, I would say my guesses on this have been wrong every time we've done it. But certainly,
welcome to 2020.
But I would say, our early anticipation is that I can't imagine many people wanting to leave their home school. So, and that was kind of where our thinking was. But again, I think there are some people, I think, as you think about people returning to work and those kinds of things, that may be in a spot where they don't really have any choices. We did want to have an option that would allow them some possibilities.
Thank you.
If there are no further questions.
I have one other quick one, sorry.
Okay, Mary.
I had a question about the substitutes, particularly for the teachers, and trying to build back up that pool of folks who could come in and help. Where does that, I was just curious where that fit into the recruiting strategy. So I know you've done a lot to kind of really beef up that component of our HR department.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for asking that. So you'll notice on if you go back to the numbers, sorry, I'm going to remind myself of those. So of the early hires, we've got 41 early hires that we've got on these two agendas tonight and then the previous one. 11 of those are going to start in January. So that's going to have a direct impact on our substitutes. So those are long-term subs who we've now been able to throw back into the pool. So that's going to have a direct impact immediately.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I also wanted to add to that everybody that we work with through recruitment, if they are an early hire for next year, and then they have the opportunity that we have many of them that are signing up to be building level substitutes, which the great opportunity for them is they, of course, get to be a part of our school team and our school culture. They get to be a part of the professional learning. They learn about our curriculum and how our curriculum is set up, as well as our resources. So it's a really big win for us as for them to come in and support, but also it's going to help with them to the transition to their own classroom next year. So we have a lot of them signed up for building substitute positions.
Fantastic, thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation this evening.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on to the consent items, the consent agenda, item 4.1. I'll seek a motion for approval of the consent items.
Move approval.
Thank you, Dr. Sinclair. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Brad. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, that passes unanimously. Moving on to the action items, items 5.1. This is the approval of the elementary, middle, and high school 2021 and 2022 program planning guides. I'll get a motion in a second and then let Dr. Fulton speak to it before we vote. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved, Goodburn.
Thank you, Ms. Goodburn. Is there a second?
Second, Guy.
Thank you, Reverend Guy. Go ahead, Dr. Fulton.
Sure, and I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Hubbard because she oversees that work.
Thank you, Dr. Fulton. I just want to recognize real quickly that a very large team worked on these programs of study that consisted of administrators and teachers and counselors throughout the district, but led by Dr. Darren Dennis. And I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Dennis and just thank him for his efforts with this team. I think you'll see the program of study looks very differently this year, even though the content may not be significantly changed this year. We do have some changes, but formatting changed. I think it's so much easier to read, and they've just done a really nice job. So I just want to commend the work that they've done with this. So, Dr. Dennis.
Thank you very much. I have a short presentation for you, and of course I'm glad to answer any questions. As you've heard several times, and certainly from the HR presentation, the program planning guide is part of a larger effort, and that's all centered around our strategic plan. And so the efforts for strategic plan were built around meeting our district goals as outlined in that strategic plan. We have 3 levels of program planning guide. I will dwell probably more on the high school program planning guide because it's longer, it's more complex. When we started this process, there were really 4 goals that we had in mind. One, obviously, was to update courses, as we do every year. That's just part of the process. But we also wanted to make the content that is in that handbook easier to find, easier to read, and easier to use for both staff and students and parents. We also, on the back end, wanted to make sure that we were supporting staff in a way that was easy to maintain, and that we would have multiple people who had the training to be able to do it. So if one person left, we would still be able to maintain the handbook. And in the process, we also wanted to transition this to the curriculum and instruction department. This has been headed up by Dr. Strike in the past at the high school level, and so moving that to the C&I department was part of our goal this year. There are, as Dr. Hubbard mentioned, a large number of people who deserve credit, and I've listed some here. I'm not going to go through all of them except to say that it took many, many people to put this product together. I do want to specifically mention Sheris Bury, who is here tonight. She has worked with Dr. Strike for many years in putting this together and was instrumental in helping me to understand the process and the product and making it happen. I also want to acknowledge from this list Christopher Villarreal, who is a curriculum and instruction coordinator. And of course, he had input into all of the content, but also he has a graphic design background. And so more than anyone else, he's responsible for the look of the document. Just a little bit about the process. This started back in late September. I sent an email to principals and counselors on September 25th with a timeline targeting tonight, the board meeting in December, as our goal. It also included the portrait of a graduate, which was developed as part of the strategic plan, because that is our vision. We want students to progress, and we have that goal. And it also had a process for recommending changes to the document, adding courses, deleting courses, or recommending changes. Principals worked with their staff and specifically their building leadership teams to receive input on those. We received requests, and we had 2 virtual meetings with principals, associate principals, and counselors, as well as several district-level staff, to hash out those requests and come to consensus. And I think that whole team worked really, really well. Behind the scenes, Sheris and Joni Kelsey and I met on a weekly basis beginning in about October to work on the formatting piece of it and the software piece of it. Rough drafts were sent out a couple of different times for counselors in particular to review, because that's the group that more than any other uses this document on a daily basis. And I received comments and feedback as recently as yesterday. So they did a great job providing that feedback. So high school changes.
these are kind of big level changes, not, I'm not going to get into the really fine grain, but we did add a diversity statement because we do value diversity and equity, and we wanted to affirm that in this document. The first section, that is about the first 30 pages, the content of that is roughly the same as it's been. However, we've reorganized it and tried to make it more user-friendly. And so we divided that into subtopics: high school program planning, college and career considerations, and support for learning. So all of that content, while there may be a few modifications and word changes, the spirit of that is there, but it hopefully is in a more organized fashion. In terms of the content of the courses, the course list, which is the bulk of the document, most of that is the same. The major change here is that we added an at-a-glance page at the start of each department and academic area. So I'm going to show you a quick glance at that. So every department, I picked one that would fit easily on a screen, but it contains a complete list of all of the courses, how many units of credit are available, what grade levels those courses are intended for, whether it meets a specific graduation requirement or not, if there's a prerequisite, if the course is weighted, if it meets NCAA clearinghouse requirements, so it's been cleared by the NCAA, if it's repeatable for credit, or if there's any course fee. So at a glance, I can look at this as a parent, as a student, as a counselor, and have an idea about what's available to students. And you can see, of course, the key at the bottom of that. Again, I want to acknowledge Christopher's role in making this as attractive as it is. So there's one of these for each of the departments. There are course additions. I'm not going to go through all of these. You've got in your packet more detail than this, but just as we normally do, there are some courses that are added specifically around career and technical education, especially, and those are in line with state pathways and with the local market demands. We also have a few deletions, courses that are no longer getting enrollment for one reason or another, and then some changes. Most of the changes, as you can see, are pretty minor, word changing or an inconsistency that we discovered that needed to be corrected. The one I do want to point out, and it's one that Jackie Madrigal mentioned earlier this evening in her comments, United States Latino Literature has been a course offered at Shawnee Mission North. It's a one-semester course currently for elective credit. She went through the work to make sure that by expanding it to a full year that we would meet the requirements and cover all of the state standards in grades 11 and 12. And so she presented that documentation. The principals and counselors, as well as the district people, were impressed with that work and have recommended that that be expanded into the course that's recommended for you tonight, and that it be offered for English 3, 4, or elective credit at the student's discretion. So that's an overview of the high school program planning guide and the changes, and I'd be glad to answer any questions about that before we move on to the middle school.
Ms. Goodburn?
So United States Latino Literature is at Shawnee Mission North currently. Any plans to expand it? I know it's hard to replicate Ms. Madrigal, but
Absolutely.
if we could, that would be awesome. Any plans to get it to the other 4 high schools?
We would love to offer it across the district. But as you said, we have to have the right teacher and the right experience. But yes.
Ms. Borgman?
This is a fantastic guide. I have 3 secondary students, 2 in high school, and I mean, even just a few months ago, we were trying to navigate the college now, like how do we do this and what does this look like? And so I think this is going to be extremely helpful for parents as they're trying to figure out how to get their kids enrolled in certain, classes and career paths and different things like that. And I guess, is this going to be available for parents to have a printed copy? Is everything going to be online? And my second question, are you encouraging counselors then to refer parents to this guide? Because, I'm guessing a significant number of questions could be answered just by going through this.
to take your last question first,
Sure.
yes, absolutely, it will be available. It will be posted on our website, and we will encourage people to look at it as they make their enrollment decisions for next year. We are not planning to print it, at least not
Sure.
in bulk. In the past several years, we have, it's been an electronic document with a few exceptions. We've made some copies for counselors, for example. But we're not planning to print it, and we haven't done that for a few years.
I understand, yeah. I like paper, so that's why, but it doesn't make sense.
It will be in PDF format on the web,
Okay.
so you could print out yourself any section of it you
Perfect.
wanted.
And then will it be available in Spanish as well, or is it available in Spanish?
It is not yet available in Spanish, but we will get it there.
Okay.
The current document is.
Dr. Sinclair, did you have a question? I thought I saw your hand go.
I was just curious how, is this tool used, the planning, program planning guide, with the personalized learning plan for high school students? Like, is this something that they can draw from in developing a personalized learning plan, or?
Absolutely. This should be part of that broader strategy. And it includes things like U-Science and Zello and the enrollment, the four-year plan. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
the formatting just seems to really bring that up another level and making it accessible and very intuitive, just glancing at it for that process. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Embry?
I'm just wondering if it seems like the Latino literature class really sprang up because we had a really dedicated teacher, which is fantastic, but it also seems like it addresses an important gap in our curriculum. So I'm wondering, are there other gaps like that in our curriculum, and how do those even come to the attention so that it's not always teacher-driven, but how do we kind of more proactively identify gaps in the curriculum that we want to fill?
There are several levels where that could happen. It happens through this process, and that's how Jackie brought it to us. It also happens in conversations with principals and even within the curriculum and instruction team, so that we can submit things to the process and the document as well to put it through the process. So yes, we're on an annual basis actively looking for places that we can fill a gap, so to speak. And the fact that we have now a Latino literature course, we've been talking about, are there other literature, cultural areas that we should be looking at? So that conversation's taking place.
I might add too, that's why we've really emphasized in our diversity, equity, and inclusion work that it's not a department, but rather it's a group that works hand in hand with the other departments. We saw that with HR tonight. And I think it's also true in curriculum instruction, where you want this to be seamlessly integrated across the district and everything that we do. And so that group works with the curriculum instruction department as well to try to address those kinds of issues.
Okay, seeing no further questions.
Okay, the next two sections will be very brief. The middle school program planning guide has not yet been reformatted, although we plan to do that next year. The high school guide took quite a lot of time to get to the shape we have it in, and we just didn't feel like we had time to do it justice for the middle school yet. So that's on the burner for next year. Process, though, was very similar. We started about 3 weeks later than the high school, knowing that the high school is a little bit bigger job. But we went through the same kinds of steps, principals working with building leadership teams and staff. They had very few changes recommended that came through the process, really only two areas. One, in social studies, grades 7 and 8, and it was a course realignment based on new state standards, so that our 7th and 8th grade aligns better with what the state's recommending in terms of content to support those standards. And then in Spanish and world languages, there were course description updates. And we also added a statement that, at the request of the the middle school principals, that we recommend that students take these courses consecutively, so that they don't start a language and then have a year off and have that gap, because that's harder to overcome. And that really is it in terms of changes in the middle school guide. At the elementary level, even fewer changes. There were some new state standards, as I said, at social studies, so we updated our descriptions to match those new standards. And then there were a couple of 2 grade levels, I believe, in math where we updated language to better align with the standards. Very minor changes, though, overall in the elementary book.
Thank you. Are there any final questions? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Hearing none, that passes unanimously. Thank you so much for your presentation this evening.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is 5.2, approval of new board policy DBB. This is the second reading, so I'll get a motion in a second, and then if there are any final questions, maybe Ms. Goodburn can field them before we vote.
I will move approval.
Thank you, Ms. Goodburn. Is there a second?
Second.
Is that you,
Stratton.
Mr. Stratton? Okay, thank you, Mr. Stratton. Any final questions for Ms. Goodburn before we vote on this? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? None. Passes 7-0. And the third item on our action items is the first reading for the new board policy regarding the school mascots. So there is no motion or second on this, and we'll just turn it over to Ms. Goodburn to give us a recap.
Sure. So as you remember at our, I think, final, maybe November meeting, you guys remanded, the board remanded us, the policy committee, to come up with a policy, a new policy on school mascots, which with the help of Rachel, we were able to come up with a policy for you all. So we decided to put it, if you remember, AC is our non-discrimination policy, and so the place where this brand new policy will be placed is right after that, ACA, and it's on school mascots. And basically we met on December 3rd and had a meeting and went over and line by line with the help of Dr. Fulton as well, he's on our committee too. And so went line by line and made suggestions and a few changes here and there. But we were, by and large, excited that we were able to come up with this policy this quickly for you all to do a first read. So what we decided at our committee meeting was that we would have a first read of the policy today, and that we have another meeting coming up, I believe, January 7th, and so we could take any kind of comments from you all or suggestions to language or whatever that would be. And at our meeting on January 7th, look at that and make any corrections or changes or anything that the committee felt like to bring forward, or to put in the policy and then bring forward in late January. So that was how, and then also we would also allow the community to talk tonight, allow the community an opportunity to weigh in as well at our first meeting, even though it's a board workshop, we do have public comment there. So there would be another opportunity to hear from the public. January, I don't know the date of that one, sorry, not off the top of my head. What? 11th. Oh, the 11th, okay, thank you. And then we would put this on, assuming everything goes well and that we don't have too many revisions to it, we would put it on for a second read then that last meeting in January, which is the 25th of January. So that's the process. And any kind of comments that anyone wants to make to me tonight, if you want to put I know this is your first opportunity when this went live to look at it. The rest of the 3 of us have seen it, but the rest of you haven't. So if you have any suggestions or comments or questions or anything, you can either have Dr. Fulton contact him, or you can contact me directly as well. So that's the process. And also what we planned on doing, because if you notice in the actual policy, it actually gives the board the determination. It says if the board determines that a school mascot fails to comply with this policy, then the mascot will be retired and a new mascot for the school will be selected through a process approved by the superintendent. We talked in our committee meeting about what the process there would be. So we thought we could in January, have a board resolution that would come forward at the same time that this would come back before the board for the second reading, to then further explain the mascots that would be non-compliant with this policy.
I like that approach.
Mm-hmm. So we have not done that yet. I haven't made the resolution yet, but then we would probably discuss that at our January meeting. And I would imagine that, we've had a lot of comments tonight about the Indian mascot, different different schools that have, and some, as you heard very eloquently from our Neiman student, that Neiman's already actually taken that on and has changed their mascot. The one that would probably not be in compliant would be the Indian. So, anyway. Any questions or of the process or that we've lined out or any?
Reverend Guy?
I want to thank you for this work. I don't have any issues with what you've already done. I just have a question about schools that will be non-compliant and need to change their mascot. Obviously, there's a financial piece that goes along with that. I know that this probably isn't the appropriate place to address that, but was there any conversation about how the district might help a school that would be in the process of changing a mascot?
Yeah, I can address that, absolutely. There would be planning that would need to be done, particularly at larger schools, a high school, middle school, so on. And even elementary schools to a little bit lesser degree in terms of signage, emblems, that kind of thing. Perhaps, what's on a court, a basketball court, gym floor. So as part of this analysis, we'll have to go through and really cost out how much will it cost to make physical changes at a school if the mascot is changed. And that's something that we can do fairly quickly, but actually budgeting it, getting the work done, I think you're talking about a process that could be a year or more in implementation, realistically. It all depends on when the decision is made about the mascot, to change it, the length of time it takes for the school to complete their process and for me to sign off on it. And then we would get to work on it.
That was one thing, too, that we talked about with the resolution was to give a time deadline as to, the schools that do need to retire their mascots, give them some kind of a window in which to get that done. And that's really up to Dr. Fulton and him discussing with his team as to, the high school obviously would be a much larger process probably, but giving them a time deadline to be able to get that process done. But again, like you said, there's a lot of considerations, and really that's the administration's job on, the timeline as to how they're going to get things done and paid for and that. But.
And just so you know, too, my goal in that process would be to make it thorough enough that by the time it arrived on the superintendent's desk, it's an easy thing to approve. Because a good process will have checks and balances throughout that process to make sure that we're adhering to this policy.
And we did add into that the superintendent would have the final approval on each mascot, too, that's chosen, just to provide that safeguard, too, to make sure that the ones that's chosen, whatever the process is at any school, that the mascot is then approved by the superintendent, that final safeguard.
Is next year the 100th anniversary at Shawnee Mission North, or is it the year after that?
After that.
It's the year after that. Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
This is just first read, so process, call, email or whatever with any talk to Dr. Fulton, and we'd be happy to take all that back, but try to get those to us by January 7th because that's our next committee meeting.
Okay. Ms. Emery, did you have a comment? I thought I saw your hand.
I was just going to note, because it was shared at the policy committee, Dr. Fulton shared that he thought by the end of this current school year, we would have the mascots that are spelled out in the resolution identified and retired and new mascots selected. I just want to make sure that I was right on that timeline.
I think that's a realistic goal, assuming we don't get any more surprises this year, and hopefully we won't, right? But that would be our goal.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you specifically to the policy committee for their work on that. Moving on to item 5.4, the replacement nimble storage array for critical district data. We'll get a motion in a second and turn it over to Dr. Fulton.
I move approval.
Thank you, Dr. Sinclair. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms.
Byrne.
Goodburn.
Sorry.
Dr. Fulton.
I'll turn this over to Dr. Atha, and I believe that Drew's going to provide an update.
Thank you, Dr. Fulton, and good evening. This recommendation before you this evening is the result of the work of the Information and Communications Technology Department. As Dr. Fulton said, Drew Lane, Executive Director, is here this evening to answer any technical questions that you may have. I would like to stress to you that this purchase is budgeted as a capital outlay expenditure. And if approved this evening, it will result in quite a cost savings to the district. So with that said, questions?
Are there any questions on this item? Seeing none, we'll have the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, it passes 7-0. Thank you very much, gentlemen. The next item on our agenda is item 5.5, approval of a revised pay structure. We'll get a motion in a second and then get some information, I think, from Russ and from Dr. Fulton. Thank you, Ms. Borgman. Is there a second?
Second, Stratton.
Thank you, Mr. Stratton. Dr. Fulton, can you guys give us an overview on this?
I sure can. I'll kick it off and then turn it over to Dr. Atha and Mr. Knapp. You know, we've been working for several years to really identify issues involving our classified staff to make sure that they are paid a competitive wage. And so I know the board's had a commitment to making sure that that occurs. And so this proposal is designed to bring some of our classified staff who are really below where the marketplace is up to where they deserve to be. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Atha and Mr. Knapp to provide any additional overview.
I would also like to add Dr. Schumacher into the loop there because his department also put together a lot of this information with Russ's department, and I fully support, and I think I don't have anything to add. Dr. Fulton well said, because that is what we're trying to do, is improve the compensation of some of our classified folks. So
I would echo all that and let Russ answer any technical questions.
Okay. Do you want me to go through the proposal?
That would be great, Russ. Thank you.
Yes. So during the budget development process, the board budgeted $250,000 for targeted, hard-to-fill position. And so we worked with Michael and Michelle Morse that you saw earlier in targeted paraprofessional and aides who fall on grade 6 and 7 of our general pay schedule. So I tasked Allison Starosky with that. She's our budget manager. Did a great job with it. Utilized the $250,000 to the fullest, and she stuck to the budget, which is good because she's a budget manager, right? So the proposal really targeted a lot of our concerns. We were able to get the aides and paras 2 to 2.5% more beginning January 22nd. So this will be effective on their January 22nd paycheck. The other thing we did that might be a little confusing to our employees, but we moved everybody back 2 steps, okay? Nobody loses money. Everybody on the schedule will make the same amount of money or more on January 22nd. But what that did was basically took step 3, the current step 3, and made it step 1. So that raises the starting salary for all those grades. Then the other thing we did for grades 6 and 7, we increased those 2% to 2.5%. So those 2 grades went up a little bit higher. And then it also gave us a little bit of retention. So those that were on step 11, which we had about 35% of our folks on step 11, which we like to say is topped out, they only get the base. So this past year we got, 1.25% plus step. They only get 1.25, but those that get a step would get 1.25 plus 3%, so almost over 4%. So anyway, those at 11 would go back to 9. Now they got room for 2 years of step movement if we were to do steps in the future. And so Allison did a great job. She checked off a lot of our boxes. This will go into effect January 22nd, if approved.
Are there any questions on this topic? Dr. Sinclair?
So just to clarify, the steps have been relabeled. No one has moved backwards in pay. We've just basically eliminated a couple of the lower steps and renumbered.
That's correct. And then we'll replace it with a new step 10 and 11.
Fantastic.
That will go up 3% each.
Thank you for everyone for the work.
Mm-hmm.
I want to thank your whole team. I know a lot of us were very excited. I think the whole board was excited to see this happen, and it's nice to have the opportunity to vote on it tonight. So with that being said, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I'm not even going to ask. I know there are none opposed. That passes 7-0. The next item on the agenda is our approval of the calendar for the year 2021-22 and 2022-2023 school years.
We always try to have for our parents and students, staff, a good plan that looks a couple years out in the future for how we're going to, for our calendar for school. And so we are bringing to you tonight a proposed calendar for the 21-22 and 22-23 school years. And Dr. Dennis, I believe, is here to respond to questions, and again, also defer to Dr. Hubbard because that's under her department.
I would just add, too, this is really a collaborative effort with all of our departments. We work with the HR team to ensure that we've met the requirements of the agreement. We work with Dr. Atha and his team. It really is kind of a whole collaborative effort. We also collaborated with Linda Seek and the NEA to ensure that we have met all the requirements there and just come to some sort of collaborative effort to get the best calendar that we can get. And Darren can talk about specifics as far as minutes if anyone's interested in that piece of it, but we'll stand for questions if you have any.
Are there any questions? Reverend Guy?
Usually the Shawnee Mission school districts tend to, at least the three largest ones, tend to be on a similar schedule. Do you know yet if Blue Valley and Olathe are going to be on a similar schedule to this?
I do not. Darren, do you?
I have seen, I don't know 2 years out if we are or not. I do know that there's a statewide effort to align spring break, and that these calendars align with that effort, even though it's not mandatory, but we do align with that.
Okay.
I would tell you these two calendars get us back into that routine of where we would traditionally be aligned with Olathe and Blue Valley.
Are there any further questions? Okay, I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Sinclair. Is there a second?
Borgman, second.
Thank you, Ms. Borgman. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? Hearing none, that passes unanimously, and we are moving on to comments from board members. And I'll start with you, Ms. Borgman, and work our way around the table.
Great, thanks. I just want to give a shout out to the Shawnee Mission Northwest as well as Trail Ridge PTA. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak at your PTA meetings to discuss the upcoming bond. I really appreciate it. And also just a huge thanks and happy holidays to all of our students and staff.
Reverend Guy?
I also just want to wish everyone a happy winter break, and I'm really hopeful that our teachers and staff and parents and students, that everybody can catch their breath. I know everybody is exhausted and running on empty, and just hope that that there are some days of rest for everybody, administrators too, maybe especially. So I hope that when we come back in January, that everybody will have had that time to get refreshed and relaxed a little bit.
Mr. Stratton?
Just thank you again to all our incredible staff, all the teachers, administrators who have guided us through an incredibly unique year. So although we're wrapping up a calendar year, that doesn't mean we're wrapping up the pandemic, doesn't mean we're wrapping up the following semester, but to guide us through this last calendar year was incredible. So thank you for that. I want to just say thank you to those that came today and spoke to us, shared their thoughts. I really appreciated the perspectives that were shared tonight and the way it was done. Thank you for those that came tonight. Lastly, I couldn't help but pass on this one, and that is congratulations to our newest board members. Jamie and Jessica, believe it or not, you've made it through one calendar year on this board, and what a year it's been. So for that, congratulations, and we enjoy working with you. Thank you.
And those have been in dog years, just so you're wondering. I echo the sentiments that have been expressed today and look forward to putting 2020 behind us, moving forward. That's it.
I too want to thank everyone who attended tonight and spoke at public comment, and all of the work that's been done by the policy committee, and to everyone who is just crawling across the finish line that is the close of this year. I don't know how your children are feeling, but my children specifically brought up that we were not supposed to have school today, but for the board changing the calendar. So, tough ski, stuff ski, I said to them. But I know it's been really hard all around, and I hope that this winter break allows everyone a measured opportunity to regain some footing and rest and enjoy each other's families. So thank you. Ms. Goodburn.
I echo everyone's comments around the board table, and then also want just to remind everybody that they will be getting a ballot in the mail. It should be right after the new year, so anyway, look for it.
Just happy holidays. I hope it's restful for everyone. I think that's the kind of holiday everyone needs.
Excellent. So now I'll seek a motion from Mary to send us into executive session, and if we could take a 5-minute break prior to heading into that session, I think that would be appreciated by everybody.
Okay,
So,
I move we go into executive session to discuss personnel issues pursuant to the non-elected personnel exception under COMA. So that, and how much time do we
if we
want for
take
that?
5 minutes and meet at 7:50, should we shoot for 40 minutes and an initial ending of 8:30?
8:30, okay.
Is there a second?
I'll second. Goodburn.
Thank you, Ms. Goodburn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
There will be no further business following the executive session. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you.